What's up, everyone? I'm Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Today, we're back to go through what is possibly the most painful 30 to 60 minutes of Sorare of the week. It is rabbit hunting, where I go through my lineups from last weekend to see what I could have won had I made maybe better decisions or maybe terrible decisions that would have worked out well. As always here, it's about results over process. So that's all we're doing. Last week, we had stream. To be honest, I did it again this week. I went through, so I'm kind of like prepared to see where I finished. It made it slightly less painful because, well, it didn't actually at the time, but I'm hoping it is now. I think I'm lagging a little bit. Sorry about that, everyone. Great start today. But anyway, we're here to go through my lineups from last weekend. I'm actually not even going to go through my own lineups because there wasn't really anything all that fun about them. I did end up winning, let me see, three limited cards, a tier 2 and 2 tier 3s, and then a tier 3 super rare that I was going to use for capped 220 this week, which probably gives you a good indication of how good that card was. Raul said that my internet's bad. If anybody can just comment in the chat if it's getting any better. Hopefully it does. And thanks, Danny Bram's first one in today. So thank you for that. 13 minutes early. Love the commitment there, Dan. So anyway, we're going to go through just kind of like my best players from last week and see if it was reasonable at all to put them in a lineup together. That was one of the things that made me feel better about last week so this would have been like my lineups from Gameweek 343, is that the lineup that would have scored the best is just not one I've ever would have made and not one that I think anyone would have made. So that gave me at least a little confidence in my process. Maybe. I don't even know yet. I haven't done enough of these to like really figure it out. There's absolutely going to be a week at some point where I put a lineup together and it's just going to be like, oh no, like I totally should have made that lineup, but I'm not there yet. So Mike is saying my internet is still meh. So apologies for that. I'll try to fix some stuff around, but I don't even know what it would actually be. But anyway, so let's dive in. The way that I did this last week, I'm going to do pretty much a similar process today. Is I'm just going to go to the my SO5 results page on Sorare data, of course, and then using this your players section. Now, again, not everyone in here is one of my regular cards I use. Like there are commons that are still included in that. I'm not going to go through any common lineups, but that is kind of the system that I'm going to use. And so I'll start with limiteds first because I generally have better limited cards than I do rare and super rare. And then I did this already. Like I said, I essentially am ignoring cat modes right now and going mostly for just to see how they are in all-star, limited, rare, and rare pro. I doubt I'll do super rare, but if we get to that point, I'll do it. The cat mode stuff, it's doable. I just don't think it's worth going in because the new prizes at this point make it a lot more attractive to enter All-Star. If anyone hasn't seen it, that they announce new ETH rewards for up to certain spots in the All-Star competition. So it's the top 300 in All-Star Limited. Based on where I finished, I'll go into it, but I would have qualified for that. And so that's just a little more ETH that I would have had I played this lineup. I actually don't think I would have qualified with the lineup that I made last week in All-Star Limited. I finished 1,584th with this lineup right here, which is kind of crazy that there were 1,500 people ahead of me with this lineup. But so wouldn't have won any ETH there, but also these weren't the 5 highest scoring guys that I had for the week. So, yeah, and Dan pointed out my super rare reward is perfect explanation of tier 3 super rare. Enjoy having a card you never use and never sell. To be honest, I actually did have it locked into a super rare cap 220 for this upcoming game, or for this current game week, the one that locked 2 hours ago. And I made essentially a panic purchase pretty close to the deadline that replaced it. So I'm still not even using that card. Shout out to Sam Ty for getting me on this player. Somebody that we talked about on Looking Up with Laird this week over on Sorare TV. If you guys don't watch that show, highly recommend it. Just look up Sorare TV on YouTube, and it's by far the most popular show over there. So anyway, we'll dive in here with the top players that I had for this past weekend. Going through, so Joey Veerman, I have a limited of. So Veerman banged that 100, and which means he's going to be the captain also. So I'm just using the concept builder. If you guys didn't catch last week, if you just go to Scout and then concepts, and then Global All-Star Limited. If it turns out that all of the guys that are in the lineup would have also qualified for something else like Challenger or Champion or whatever, we'll go in and see if it would have won anything there as well. But I don't think that was the case this week. So thankfully, it's not something that we have to go through. So Veerman is in. These guys are commons. The fact that Sorare now has these like amateur competitions that give us more commons, and they still recognize our old commons, gave me a very false sense of accomplishment when I'm like, oh, I have all these really good players. But anyway, Kim Min Jae, who was in that All-Star Limited lineup, is here. So he gets put in to this lineup as well. There he is. Okay. So we still need a forward, a goalkeeper, and our extra. And Felix Torres is a limited card that I have that I actually bought for the World Cup. I did like a day before the World Cup trade with Pavel to get Felix Torres in. I also grabbed Aaron Long and Matt Turner, and I can't remember what I gave up, but similarly to a lot of deals that I do with Pavel, he definitely won. So if we need to like build in some more pain for this game week, I'll pull that trade up. Alex Wilson was saying, one issue with concepts would be nice to pick players multiple positions like Rio Hatate. Totally agree. That's a little more complicated than just like doing it. And we are obviously working on 1,000 other things at Sorare Data. So not me, of course. I just talk about everything. I don't do any of the actual work, but we are aware of that. And don't worry, we know that would be really helpful. All right, so I still need a forward and a goalkeeper. Now, the kind of interesting thing about this game week when I was going through my players is that I remember everyone who plays U23, and I actually stopped playing U23 a few months ago, but it felt like the scores to win rewards in U23 last week were like bonkers. And so it's one of those things that I was happy because I was like, oh, good. Those are like high scoring cards that are not in competitions I'm playing in. But then I was like, oh, I wonder if scoring everywhere is really high. And it really wasn't, which was both encouraging when I started this process of being like, oh, well, maybe I'd win something, or maybe my guys aren't that high scoring, but it shouldn't matter. And then it actually gets a lot worse, as you'll see in a little bit. So I have an Enzo Fernandez limited, not to be confused with the original Enzo Perez, who I have super rare of. But because we already have our extra spot filled with Felix Torres, who outscored Enzo, and then obviously Veerman outscored him, I will not add Enzo. So continuing to scroll through. Now, this is one of those things that like I know the players in my gallery, You guys don't. So if you're like, oh, why didn't you just pick all these guys? It's because I don't necessarily have them all. Like Tomas Durso, I have a rare card of. Thomas Mueller, I have a common. So it's just kind of, these are all over the place. So Jens Odgaard is a player that I have in limited, who I had this lineup here, which felt really encouraging. This was one of those things, like 365 probably isn't like, that's not that high. Obviously, the concession by Verbruggen hurt this. And really, there's only 2 decisives in this lineup. So maybe it probably doesn't even deserve a reward, or at least a good reward. So I got the tier 3 limited. But anyway, we've got Odgaard there. So we'll add Jens in there. And that leaves us just needing a goalkeeper, as we're already at 368 points, as we can see a tier 2 with only 4 players, which again is like both encouraging and a little scary where this ends up. And Ter Stegen, who was in this All-Star limited lineup. Oh, no, he wasn't. Excuse me. He was somewhere else. Looks like he should have been in that one. But Ter Stegen, my highest scoring goaltender, for those of you who listen or watch the Sorare Data Strategy show. I don't want you to get confused. Those are the same positions, though one plays hockey and the other one plays football. So Mike Basson said, how'd your weekend go? Did you have sides that started well and then bombed? Any that you thought were dead and they were saved? Nothing was really great. My capped Super 220, which is kind of a silly lineup here. I think Lubicic was in the first game of the game week, like right on Friday, and he scored 65. And I was like, oh man, this is really encouraging. And then it just sort of went badly. Alessio Castro Montes was smashing it. Like he had like a 18 AA in like 18 minutes. And I got a DM from my good friend Andy Black, and he was like, who also has ACM. And he's like, he's doing really well. Check this out, blah, blah, blah. And then the game just got completely out of hand, and he gave everything back plus some. So once that happened, I was like, oh, I'm like, this lineup is dead. And then Enzo Perez, the original Enzo from River Plate, had this huge, he drew a penalty, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, wait, I'm back. And at one point, this lineup was in 6th, which was a tier 2 super rare. And I don't win tier 2 super rare. And in fact, I don't think I've ever won a tier 2 super rare, but it was kind of like, oh, wow, like here we go. And then Durso got this clean sheet, and I was really getting excited. Wolk Janssen did not much, which honestly, I wasn't expecting much playing away to Anderlecht, but 12 points short of this tier 2 super rare, which again, I had with Castro Montes just playing regularly. But yeah, that one was a bummer. So anyway, we are here. We are at 442 without any XP, which as you can see is already quite good. We're already in the star category. So let me just go through quickly and try to grab some XP numbers. Kim and Jay, 9.5%. Oh boy. This is where you really start to feel good. No one else from that lineup. There's Ter Stegen, 6.5, which is not so bad for a card that's 2 years old. Veerman, 8.5 as a captain as well. Veerman has been like a really frustrating card because he got benched for a little bit and then obviously came back and is just crushing it. And it was one of those that like I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to play him, and like I wasn't going to play. So I actually was going to play him right here in this U23 limited lineup, probably instead of Yari, who ended up captaining anyway. But is what it is. So we had, where were we here? Who was it? Oh, Odgaard was 6.5. And then Felix Torres, who, if you remember, was the second or third guy in this lineup. I didn't even play him. He's nowhere to be found. which is pretty frustrating in itself. Why did I not play him? Away to Juarez, they allowed 3. Whoa! How do you allow 3 and still have a 53 AA? Oh, 15-2 duels. That is wild. 15-2. So I guess I should have played him. All right, so he's at 4.5%. Man, 52 AA. 4.5%. We give the captain to Mr. Veerman, and that gets us up to 471, which sounds like it should be pretty good. So 471. So I pulled this up earlier. I just have the tab open already. If you just go to SO5 and then Gameweek Center, and then I picked rankings and then All-Star Limited, we see that 471 would have put us on the podium. Second place. Which, like this lineup, I mean, I didn't even have Felix Torres in a lineup anywhere. So the idea that I like misplaced him. Like, yeah, Mike Basson said, you probably didn't play Torres as he was so far down your list of cards on team selection. Totally. Like the number of players that I would have, I mean, we see exactly who I played. Like just looking at, I'm not putting him instead of one of these guys, Hoffman or Sangare. I wasn't going to play him instead of Kim Min Jae. I guess I could have played him in cap 220 somewhere. Although I think his L15 was kind of high. Cap 240. I mean, Ajax had this great matchup. A way to, I mean, I'm not sure where I am. Michael Pinto is kind of an interesting one. This guy, like, I don't know anything about this guy. I forget why I bought the card a long time ago, but he actually like scores really well for just like an attacking left back for some. I mean, I know Sparta Rotterdam are doing better than a lot of people expected this year, but it's actually been a really good card. And like, I'm not going to play that over Torres. But anyway, so it only took 1 game week or 2 game weeks of this show to get to the podium, which is like bummer, obviously. But again, like I'm probably not putting that card in that lineup. Let me see. The other ones I probably played together. Odegaard, like U23 Limited is actually the only U23 I still play, and I tend to put my better U23, my best U23 cards there. Odegaard's, I think, right now my best, although I have a Noah Lang. He's been playing pretty well lately. And Veerman, I didn't play in U23. So Ter Stegen, Kim Min Jae, Veerman, I think is definitely a trio that I could have played together. I've definitely done it before. And so I was close there, but like Neymar playing, I always put Neymar in. So like, I'm not going to play Felix Torres or Odegaard over Neymar. Like that's not going to happen. So I think I mean, it is what it is. Surface was saying it's ridiculous to get upset over not playing this. I don't think we're learning anything revelatory here, except what is known. Unique, unforeseen combos of players, of course, will do that in retrospect. Totally agree. To be honest, I think very little of this show is going to teach us, or very little, we'll learn very little from the show. It's really just like what was supposed to be fun, like going through. But there are going to be situations where well, let me rephrase. I hope that there are going to be situations that will at least allow me to learn of like, oh, if I just done this, then there's that. I would love to have this show next week and be like, I finished 4th in something really good, and I only had to do this 1v1, and I would have finished first. Like I would like to have that conversation. So there's that. We'll see. Sam's asking how many tiers he missed. None yet. Although we did just discover that I would have finished second in All-Star Limited last weekend. So I already pulled up the rewards page. If you guys are unfamiliar, if you just go to SO5 and then rewards, and then if we just pull down All-Star Limited, which is actually here. So first place got Erling Haaland, which that would have been fun. But again, I wouldn't have qualified, or I wouldn't have won there anyway. So I don't want to say that that was the reward, because it wasn't. But Kavicha Kvaratskhelia would have been the reward, and that would have been nice. And frankly, the whole top 10 would have been real nice last week. As we see, Bruno Fernandes, 2 Florian Wirtzes. Amazing how quickly you can go from the DNP list to the star list, and frankly, pretty close to the top of the star list. Kevin De Bruyne, 2 Pedris, Vinicius, 2 Rodrigos, Carlos Heel, who I don't have in limited. And there's just a bunch. Let's see, who was the last? I mean, I'm looking like, oh, I wonder who like the last star is. Boy, they gave away a lot. Benoit Badiashile, who, good card for sure, but I was at the podium. So not only would have been the Kavicha card, but also, 0.2 or 3 ETH or yeah, I don't even remember what they gave away for All-Star Limited. 0.26. Oh no, 0.18, excuse me. 0.18 for second place, which is helpful. Yeah, helpful. Shout out to Mike Baston, who is actually bringing me the live tiers that Dooland is on the bench. Dayland, I already forget how to pronounce his name, but that was the super rare I bought to play instead of the super rare that I won last week in Cap 220. So, yeah. So next week's show is pretty much already writing itself, which is always really helpful. Okay, so we have the Kavicha card plus 0.18 as what we didn't win last week, which is fun. And then, yeah, next week we'll talk about all the ETH that I missed out on, for sure. So if we clear this out and we'll go to rare, and again, I went through this already, at least it might have been for Rare Pro actually, but there was a weird situation this week, and I think this is actually going to happen every week, and it's more because of the way that my super rares are set up, that I don't have like elite super rares. And so the weird thing that is going to come about with this is that maybe I'll have like one super rare that plays well, and like that's the one that I'll put into this hypothetical All-Star Rare Pro lineup. But I pretty much always play 2 super rares in any Rare Pro competition. And I'm not saying that's the right way to play. I know plenty of people who only play 1. I know Maxime is one that usually plays just 1 super rare in Rare Pro, but I know that Sean, PSU Fans 2, is adamant about never doing that. He always plays 2 and is always very on the side that you should always play 2. But looking at my lineups, or looking at my cards, excuse me, and how they scored, my Rare Pro lineup, like the highest Rare Pro lineup I usually can get, does actually only include 1 rare, because like the quality, 1 super rare, because the quality of my rares is so much higher than the quality of my super rares. And that's actually something that we looked at, I think, in a previous Sorare Data newsletter. Essentially, like, are 2 super rares like required to win rewards? And the data kind of tells us different things, because we can see that most rewards in Rare Pro competitions are won by lineups with 2 super rares, but it's mostly because the people who play those lineups like prioritize that competition. And so there are a lot of lineups that have no super rares, or just 1 that are kind of extras. And what you really need to focus on is like the number of points required to score for a reward, not like do I have to have 2 super rares to do it? So we'll see. So yeah, Mike Basson, yeah, everyone thought he would start, and he's not. So the brace off the bench will be fun. It'll be a nice story. I'll be like, oh, I was so bummed. Mike Basson really was the downer during last week's show, but then all of a sudden he had a decisive off the bench, and we'll be fine. So anyway, we'll go to the rares. This is right, Jerem, raw points over everything. That's right. So let's check out the rares. Again, we'll go back to my players, and I'll definitely have to scroll a little further this time in order to find the high scoring rares. I'm not even going to, I was going to ruin a little bit of it later, but I'm not going to do that. So as I continue to scroll, we get the almighty João Felix, who is my highest scoring rare card last week. There is nothing about Sorare that I've enjoyed more than João Felix becoming not only a usable card, but like I captained him this week. And I don't think I've ever captained him without like jokingly captaining him. This was one of the first cards I've ever bought on the platform. It is astonishing how little I've won with it. So it's nice that he's finally usable. I hope that he never goes back to Atletico Madrid or never goes back to playing for Diego Simeone because the card just becomes worthless. It's really frustrating. But he was my highest scoring card last week, rare card, rare or super rare, which means we get to captain him in this hypothetical as well. And since I just happen to know the XP off the top of my head, because it's a card that's near and dear to my heart, we'll just captain him right there. So anyway, we'll go through a bunch of other rares. So as I mentioned before, I have an Enzo Perez super rare. So an 81 point super rare is really helpful. And so I think when I was initially doing this, I only looked at Rare Pro. I don't know if I looked at Rare. But we're going to do Rare first, just because I literally can't remember which one I did first. So we'll come back to Enzo, to the original Enzo, and we'll keep scrolling down looking for high scoring rare cards. I have a Juni Ito. The fun thing, this is actually not fun at all. Another like pain point that I had with Sorare is the Juni Ito card that I have. In fact, I'm just going to pull it up because I like this card so much. So I bought this card just before the season started, and I remember when I bought it, I think I tweeted about it, and someone was like, "Oh, let's hope that the rumors to Leicester don't come to fruition." And I actually had I had gotten so excited about owning this card. This was the first 2018-19 card. Like, this is first year Sorare, and it was the first one that I owned, and it felt like a collectible. I think I even paid above floor to get it. And I was like, I mean, his scores at Gank were just awesome. So it was one of these that like I wanted to, oh man, they're so good. So I wanted this card. And then the Leicester stuff came up and I was like, oh no, like don't let that ruin it. And then they were like, Leicester's pulled out of the negotiations. And I was like, all right, let's go. And then he goes to France and it was like, oh, and his AA is still pretty good, but like, he's just not Gank Juni Ito, the card that I bought Gank Juni Ito and never got it. And so it's nice to see that it's like become a usable card. To be honest, I have forced that card into like Rare Pro lineups before that I thought were good, that just like I had better cards, but I just like wanted that one to be the good one. But last game week, it turned out to be pretty good. I'm fairly certain that I didn't get anything good out of him. Yeah, I played All-Star Rare. Well, I don't know if I'll go into super rares on this show, but like I didn't think my super rares, other than that Enzo one, were any good. So like I actually didn't think my All-Star Rare Pro submission last week was going to be good enough. And so it felt like I was wasting Tadic and wasting Ito, and so, or whoever else I had. I don't even remember at this point. So I ended up just going for All-Star Rare. And yeah, that failed too, thanks to Adon giving up 2 goals to Porto, which obviously not a great matchup, but yeah. Anyway, so we've got Ito, and so that's just 2 forwards we have right now, right? Yeah. So we continue to scroll through. Here is our boy Durso, who went from being a cat mode cheat code to now just a guy. But he was just a guy who scored 75 points last week, so we can just plop him in there. So we've got a defender and a midfielder left. And I remember having to scroll a little further for these guys because I didn't have anyone great. I did have Vinicius Souza in rare. I could have played him if, oh wait, we can play him. Great. So we'll get Vinny Souza in there. That's another card that, like, shout out to Danny Bram who was here. I don't know if he's still here, but he's the one who got me to buy this card. And we've had our ups and downs, but it's coming good again, which is really nice. Steven, hello, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. If you guys could please hit the like button on the video, that's always helpful. And yeah, that's it. That's just helpful. All right, so we need a defender. I have Brules, who is not a defender, but I do have his rare card. And I just didn't really have that many great rares. All right, so I have Big Melly Muhlenstein from Vitesse, who's actually been playing. There we go. That's right. All right, so that gets us to 407 without XP, which, like, although we do have the João Felix, which is like a fine score. Like, it's nothing crazy. It is kind of interesting that, like, Tadic, 57 is probably not going to get to anybody's highest, but, like, there are very few weeks where Dusan Tadic is not one of my highest scoring players. And so I don't know if that makes me feel better about my other cards or just it was just an off week for Tadic. I don't know. João Felix is there. Vinny, I need to look up his XP since 8% Vinny, man. Love that. Ever since they got rid of training, I've started to, like, really appreciate XP more. Just kind of funny since we don't use it. Durso, 9%. Come on. Things are going to be super rare soon. All right. And then we still need Muhlenstein. There he is. All these competitions wasted with these high XP players. All right. So that got us up to 416, which was a tier 1 last week. So obviously much better than I did. And I think this is a reasonable lineup. I probably would never play Durso in a priority lineup. His L10 was so low that, like, or excuse me, L15. Sorry, L10's for NBA. The L15 was so low that he was just an easy cap mode play. Like, where did I play him? 220? Yeah. Like, oh, super rare 220. So yeah, this was like, not that I have, like, really high L15 super rares, but they're, like, not super low. So you need to find a low somewhere, and Durso was there. And then, yeah, I won this tier 3. I won an Arnie Meyer, if that's even how you say his name. Super rare. So what did I say? 416. Okay, so if we go to All-Star Rare, and we'll probably have to scroll a little bit. Oh, God, not even that much. So this is, oh, man. So again, like, low scoring week, I had the right players. 416 puts us 26th overall, right? Is that what I said? 416? All right, so 26th in All-Star Rare, who had a top prize of Bruno. That's fun. Good for them. Congrats, Royal Jack. What did I say? 26th? 26th place gets the Bora Goat. I'm lamenting that because I owned Benjamin Bourgeot rare card once, and I traded it. There were rumors he was going to go to Juve or he was supposed to, I thought he was supposed to go somewhere in Italy. And then, like, I got rid of him in the summer, and he just, price-wise, obviously everything is down, but, like, he's a great card. and looks like he's struggling a little bit recently, but like I got a good amount of stuff out of that card. And I'm fairly certain that I traded it for Hulk and not, unfortunately, just Goat. I think it was this deal. It is. So at one point, this trade looked horrific because Cifuentes was like crushing towards the end of the season last year. Goat obviously was goating it. Bruno Lamas was a throw-in. He was a reward. And I think actually Cifuentes was a reward too. But that got me Hulk, who is like, he's Hulk. He's good. But like that actually, well, yeah. At one point, the ETH plus averages on this was like well over an ETH. And Hulk was at like 0.2 because he got hurt for a little bit. So actually that made me feel a little bit better. And frankly, valuation that day, 0.81 and then 0.94. Surely Hulk wasn't actually going for that, but I'll pretend he was to make myself feel better. So I actually got one over on Pavel that day. And then surely I've won a little bit with Hulk. Yeah. We got some good stuff here. Oh yeah. Fourth and all. But I actually don't know how much I won with Borjo because, well, I mean, nothing crazy, but like, you know what it was? I played him in Champion Europe a lot, and I was just never really competitive in Champion Europe. Like I wasted that card. That should have been, I should have never owned that card. So if we go back to this All-Star Rare, again, this is one that we couldn't play it in Challenger or Champion Europe or America. And so Mike is saying, yeah, Borja went on a bad run at some point, but yeah, he's back to it. Amy saying Sifu is still the GOAT. So Sifu was on another one that was supposed to get a transfer in January. I'm actually really surprised he's still at LAFC. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see him get a move. I don't even know. And then Surface, yeah, take the wins on Pavel when you can. Yeah, that's absolutely true. We all have like the number of people who have more wins than losses is against Pavel is probably really short. So Quinny's asking for any predictions on what we'll see next week. I haven't looked at, like, I haven't pulled up my lineups that I actually submitted for this week. I actually do want to talk about that in a little bit because the lineup prioritization process is just very different now than it was like 2 weeks ago, like before cap mode. And so I will get into that. I do want to just jump back to the lineup, to the concepts for a second, because I don't want to ignore that that Enzo Perez super rare that I had. So if we move over to Rare Pro, we know that João Felix was the highest scoring of that list, and so he fits in as a forward. And then we know that Enzo is there as a super rare, so I'm going to add him. There he is. All right. Back to the results. I know that there's Enzo, and then, yeah, Ito would fit in here. So let's put Junie in as well. All right, so I still need, and Durso was the highest scoring goalie. I didn't have like a super rare goalie that was going to outscore anyone realistically. So I'll put Durso in there. So now it's basically like we had Melly Muhlenstein in there, and let's see, if I put him in, that gets us to like, let's see, if I just apply the power, we're at 418. So let me see if I can find my highest scoring defender super rare, which hopefully I just played. Back to Castro Montes, who was on pace for like 1,000. Obviously, he would have capped out at 100, but he did not score 100, so we just move on. And then Coates had like a terrible game. And I don't think I had any others that I would have played. Apologies if I'm going too fast on the screen here. If you guys could also just drop a comment the way that I have the screen set up, where I'm a little bigger and the screen that I'm sharing is a little smaller. This is the other option where I go tiny. I don't know if one is better or worse for you guys, but I always find it weird when the screen, the person who's talking is just so small. But again, I'm old, so maybe it's just me. So anyway, let me go through, because actually there's a better way to do this here. If we go back to the Gameweek center and we go to Gameweek 345 and we go to players, oh, big boobs. Oh, that was last week, right? And then I can at least go by positions. All right. So it would be nice to have a Timber or a Kalulu or a Kim Min-jae super rare, but I ain't close. So it is what it is. Got a bunch of commons. Oh, I have a Secco super rare, which I did not use, as you can see. So where was Muhlenstein? 63, Secco 46. That probably does not get us there. 418. Secco super rare. Shout out to Stish, who has his unique. Yeah, we don't even get to 400 with that Secco one. So if you told me I had to do 2 super rares, this is what we end up with. But we know that you don't. And so, oh, actually, hold on. That didn't do what I was thinking it would do. I'm glad I caught that, because Ito should be here. No one in the comments telling me that. Come on, guys. I like tiny you when talking about the info on. Okay, that's fine. That's fine, Mike. I'll go tiny. Here you go. Here you go. Anyway, so we're at 416. So it's actually almost exactly the same. And if we put in, wait a minute, why? This should be 25, right? Or, oh boy. This is where it gets ugly. All right, so what did we say? 9% Durso, 9.5 Joao Felix, 6.5 Ito, if I remember correctly. If not, I'm just going with it anyway. And then where was Enzo? Oh, wait. Because I definitely played Enzo somewhere, because he saved the day. Enzo is at 28. Whoops. Did I have 28? No, I don't. And then Secco, who I did not play. That's 2 like decent cards I did not play, which is kind of frustrating. 29. Uh-oh. 437. We would have scored in 437 in All-Star Rare Pro. So 437 would have left me 7th or 8th in All-Star Rare, but obviously we have the scarcity bonus. So 437, still not even that far down the list, is 16th, right behind Gald Guy. Shout out to Gald Guy, 231, who will be Gator Guy 231 in about a month when he can change his name back. And Royal Jack. Wow, Royal Jack must have had a week. Didn't we talk about him earlier? Now I'm curious. Royal Jack, 345. Oh, 1 All-Star Rare and All-Star Rare Pro. How did I not know this? Holy moly. Benitez, Teze, Veerman, Pavlidis, and Carl. Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I wonder if that's ever happened, because that is incredible. I have certainly never seen that. Wow. I guess I could just go look up on our rewards page. Where did that rewards page go? Wow. Winning Bruno and Haaland in the same game week. That is incredible. Wow. Bravo, Royal Jack. Bravo. And I bet you meant to make those lineups, unlike what I'm doing here. Anyway, sorry for that break off there. Regular listeners of anything about Sorare Data podcast that I'm on know that I can't stay on topic. 437. All-Star Rare Pro, what did I say, puts us right behind Gold Guy. So we would have finished 16th. And 16th in All-Star Rare Pro, let's see, Gold Guy won David Hanko, and I would have won Foremost Mendy, who's a pretty good card, although a bit frustrating, I know, lately because I think he was late. He was scratched today after the deadline with an illness. I forget why I know that because I don't have Foremost Mendy. But anyway, so we would have gotten Mendy. So this card here. And obviously I would have gotten the ETH because I would have been in the top 30. All-Star Rare would have won. What did I say here again? Oh yeah, Borjo. And then All-Star Limited was, yeah, Kavicha. So the Borjo is like $461. Mendy, $572. Kvaratskhelia, $323, plus the 0.18 ETH for finishing in the top 300. Obviously, it was 30th in limited. So it's actually not nearly as much as I thought. Maybe because I combined these two. 15,000, but I wouldn't be able to play those or to win both of those because I had guys from the same one. Oh yeah, Surface has this Foremost Mendy super rare. That's right, and he got held out of games before the transfer window closed. Yeah, but maybe he'll be fine now. You never know. So I don't know if there's any lesson here. Again, and actually. To go back to the whole super rare thing, I actually don't. Did I even have a super rare goalie last week? Like that was kind of the frustrating thing. I don't think I did. My only super rare goalie that was playing is Runner Runnerson, who plays in Turkey, and so they haven't been playing. So really capped. I could have played a 0, which I did with Guzan somewhere. Here we go. And obviously, I came nowhere close and capped 240 from winning a thing. All of these guys were terrible. Amazingly, they scored all of these while I think they all played 90 minutes, which actually did Vial Pando? No, he only played 45. Okay. Somehow that makes me feel better. But the super rares were terrible last week, and so I didn't get there. I missed out on ETH here because Luis Urruti was a late scratch, which I think realistically you shouldn't necessarily win stuff when you have DNPs, but I did it this past game week right here. Cap 240 rare. The Coates super game here allowed me to get the ETH in cap 240 rare. This is the midweek that we're looking at here. I didn't play Adon here because I played Adon. Where is he? With Coates super rare. So this lineup was 47 points away. And then Adon with the error led to goal on the only goal that he conceded. So that's like a 50-ish point swing, which 50 points would have been helpful when you're 47 away from a tier 2. Obviously, I'm not the only one with Adon in this competition. And so is what it is. Also did a classic wrong captain here, although anyone who's captaining Yari over Dusan Tadic, well, I guess maybe in the matchups, they're okay. Oh, right. And Surfaces mentioning Mendy also, yeah, last week the pitch was in poor condition, so they didn't play. So, but surely all the excuses are gone, Sam, and I'm sure you'll be able to run good with him after this. So yeah, we've gone like 50 minutes. I'm going to try to, I'm going to talk a little bit about this current game week because I really struggled with this game week. I was going back and forth on where to where to put my best cards. And I had a very similar situation as last weekend where I didn't feel like my best cards were good enough to enter where I wanted to play them. So generally, like All-Star Rare Pro is where I put my best cards. I put my Tadic there. If Sporting have a good matchup, I do Adon Rare and Coates Super Rare. I have an Alexandru Maxim Super Rare that's like probably my best Super Rare score-wise on a regular basis, but the earthquake in Turkey obviously kind of shut that league down for a little bit. He just got to move to Besiktas, which I wasn't going to play him this week anyway since it just happened. But I just didn't feel like I had a competitive enough lineup to put my best cards in All-Star Rare or Rare Pro, excuse me. And then the ETH reward, the new ETH system comes out yesterday, and it's kind of like, man, so now like I'm already not competing that well in Rare Pro for rewards, let alone for the additional ETH payouts. But maybe if I take my best rares and put them into All-Star Rare, I can compete for a card and the ETH. And then I wasn't sure what to do with cap mode. And actually the new All-Star announcement, what made me start thinking maybe I should enter cap 270 because anyone with reasonably good cards would put them in All-Star over 270. And cap 270 almost feels like unnecessary now because you can almost play anyone you want, and the prizes aren't as good as All-Star. So like, why wouldn't you just go to All-Star? So because of that, like if I'm thinking everyone else is going All-Star, I'm like, maybe I'll just play 270. Fewer good cards to compete against. People are just putting throwaways. There's still like decent rewards in there. Super Rare Cap 270, if you finish high enough, you would win a unique, which I don't have a unique. It would probably be a unique I'd never use, but you never know. So I just like kept going back and forth. And to be honest, I was like getting myself stressed out about it. And this game isn't supposed to do that. It's not supposed to stress you out. It does, granted, like I'm not saying it doesn't, but I was sitting there thinking to myself, I'm not having fun doing this. And I realized that the only reason I wasn't having fun is because I told myself this wasn't fun. And I just kind of had this like mental change where I was like, let's just build some lineups and see what happens. And like, let's go build them and have fun. And then I bought this super rare this morning to make one of my lineups better. He's already on the bench, and maybe this isn't fun. Maybe it's not fun at all. I'm kidding. I'm having tons of fun. I love this game. And we can go through my lineups here. Let me just make myself tiny again. And I will say that some of these, I feel like I have to justify this. Some of these are terrible lineups that I just put in for XP. And MLS is back next game week. So that's where I feel like I'll really finally be able to compete. So All-Star Limited, I decided to make All-Star Limited my best limited lineup because I want to finish in the top 300 and get more ETH. When I talked to Maxime on the strategy show on Monday, and he was saying how he was prioritizing the cap mode 240 specifically for the ETH payouts, I just was thinking that like if the market is not great and I'm having trouble selling cards, the easiest way to get more ETH is to just win it. And we now have more ways to win ETH than we've ever had before. And so I'm going to, at least in the short term, while I don't have like super cards, I say this with Messi and Neymar on the screen. Like I get it. I get that. But I'm going to go for it. I actually bought these Messi Neymar cards like over a year ago, and the expectation was always to like build lineups like this in All-Star, and I always ended up playing like one in Specialist, and then it feels like they so rarely play both in the same game, and just like I don't play them together that much. But I went with them this week, and I feel like for the most part this is a pretty competitive lineup, and so that's just why I put these guys there. I played Tadic in All-Star Rare for kind of a similar situation of I think there'll be I think this is like a competitive lineup. And I do want to compete for the top 100 to get the ETH payout. I do think this can get me a reward. I also think that there are enough people who have moved out of All-Star Rare, either to play Rare Pro with cards like Tadic or Adon and Coates, and therefore, if they're in Rare Pro or they're in Cap 240 or they're in 270 to try to win a super rare, like there are fewer elite cards in All-Star Rare than there have been. I say this after doing zero research about it. And I mean, we haven't even seen a game week yet where people like now there are people who have a reason to come back to All-Star, but that's just the way that my mind was thinking. And that's why I ended up putting these cards here. Mike Bassam was saying, is it the case there's so many decisions now that it's even more difficult to make the best decisions? I mean, surely the more decisions you have to make, the harder it is to land on the best one, if that makes sense. And so I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think like this game is filled with so many decisions, and like which cards to buy, how much to pay for those cards, which contests to enter, which cards to enter in those contests. Like there's just a lot. And yeah, like the more decisions that you have to make, the odds that you make the perfect ones are just low. And so it is what it is. We move on. So I ended up throwing in a Rare Pro lineup. I actually feel like I have a better Rare Pro lineup, which I played in America, which we'll get to in a second, although it's like highly speculative. So it's not that great. I expect nothing out of this contest, out of this lineup, except 100 from João Felix. And like Jonas Hoffman is home against Bayern, not ideal. Santa Maria's got a tough matchup. He is at least home against Tigres. And then there's that small possibility that Higashiguchi is benched for Kositani, which I feel bad because, well, I don't feel bad at all. Let me rephrase that. I know enough people who have Otani, like from when he was a U23 option, and I just hope he's not an option this year, as long as it keeps Higashiguchi in there. Cap 220, I mean, I can't say I prioritize this lineup at all. Oliver Baumann has been absolutely atrocious, and that's why he's in here, because he has an L15 of like 30 at best. 220 is here. I did use a limited goalkeeper, and I actually think this lineup, I had somebody else in Lozano's spot. I forget who it was, but at one point this lineup had like 40 cap points to spare, which like you don't get any extra credit for additional cap points, but it does. Rudy apparently is not going to start. Alvarez surely has to start. There was no indication that he would, but I can't imagine that Man City would play Erling Haaland 3 straight games in 8 days, although Pep just does what Pep does. So Cap 220, this is the card that I bought this morning. I did it in a partial trade. I didn't even know he played today, which make of that as much as you want. I didn't buy this card just for today, so I'm not like super bummed about this. It is just kind of a bummer to have a lineup like potentially dead 3 hours after the deadline, and it was dead like an hour ago when we knew the lineups. But he could still come on and do well, and so I'm not sweating that one too much. And frankly, keeps the L15 low. That's really all we can say when it comes to guys who don't perform well. At least the L15 stays low. Cap 240 limited. Hopefully this wins $5. That's literally all I have to say. This is $240. I hope this wins $50. We have some guys that we've seen previously, or literally on this show, that would have been the highest scores last week. Hopefully they can even improve this week. We've got Vargas here, home against Tigres. Not a great matchup. Hopefully a lot of saves. And then Usami back, who you will see later. In fact, you might see him literally in the next line if you do. So I've been I decided to play the super rare division about a month or 2 months ago, maybe actually it was longer than that. But I was starting to get super rares, and I was like, all right, I'm going to play All-Star Super Rare because nobody plays that because the rewards are so bad. And then So Rare finally did what everybody wanted and made them really good. And now I have to go play somewhere else because I'm just not good enough to, like, my cards are not good enough to compete against the super teams that get put there now, because you can win like tier 0 super rares. But if this can win me $100 and this can win me $50 and this can win me $5, I'm going to be pretty happy. That's all I want. I just want to be happy. The Cap 270 was a throwaway. This Challenger Limited, I pretty much wasn't using these guys somewhere else, so I put them together. The Porto guys, the Sporting guys, and then Veerman. And then I had, this is obviously a throwaway. Shout out Tony Watt. And De Kaiser won't even start, so that's obviously a throwaway. We've got the same thing here with Champion America. 3 playing cards, 2.5 playing cards. Paulo Diaz is back, but no guarantee he plays. And then Champion America is an XP card. XP lineup. Because as long as Abea plays, all of these guys will get more than 75 XP points. And I have other cards in training that we're prioritizing. This is the other rare pro lineup. So Paulo Diaz is not guaranteed to start. And I actually played around with this one a lot because I have a Paulo Diaz super rare, but then I couldn't obviously play Enzo and Quinones, both of which were a little too high for the cap mode stuff. Even 270, I guess, would have been. Actually, I don't think he would have fit in 270 the way that I had it. Yeah, Mike Basson, with the old deadline, it would have been 7 hours before the heartache. It's a good point that, like, it does give you a little more time to hope, but the hope is gone. Well, it's not gone. The hope is not gone. I trust Sam Tai, who has watched like minutes of Dooland play. And so again, I actually don't even remember if that's how you say his name. And then I've got Legends, which I didn't care about. And then this is the U23 lineup for this week. And it's 5 guys who are younger than 24. That's all I got. So I actually wasn't planning on going through my lineups, but I don't know if it actually makes me feel better or worse about them, but it's there. So it is. So that's it. Thank you to everybody for joining. It was not nearly as painful as I thought. I think next week I am just going to go in raw and not look ahead and see exactly what transpires. I mean, maybe this Doolan card will be in the list, which would be really awesome. It'd be a nice story of like I bought him and then he banged 100 off the bench because whatever. I don't even care how he gets to 100 as long as he gets there. So yeah, hopefully we have that, or it becomes like really painful, more for me than you guys. But that's kind of the point of the show. So again, like I have fun with all of this. As much as I like make this look like anything is painful, it's really not that bad. Not nearly as bad as my falling gallery value. Just getting there too. But yeah, so thank you everybody for joining us. If you please hit the like button, that at least like encourages me selfishly to keep this going. I have thought about bringing on someone else, but I'm not sure anyone really wants to live through this. So that just leaves me to live through it for you guys. So anyway, again, thank you very much. And